Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. As always, folks, I'm going to be live on YouTube Rumble. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got so much to get to today. First, I do want to get to this. If you vote for Krystle for Normal Township Supervisor, number one, I can't stand when elected government officials try to go for two offices at once. I feel like that's a conflict of interest. I don't even know why it's allowed, but it happens a lot. I've noticed Democrats tend to do this a lot, where they go for. So she's a sitting county board member, McLean County board member, yet she's going for Normal Township Supervisor. I feel like it could be a conflict of interest. You see this in the village of Dalton. The mayor there, Tiffany Henyard, she's the mayor there, but then she's also not anymore, because she didn't get nominated to be the township supervisor. But she was trying to be the Thornton Township supervisor, that's why she calls herself Super Mayor, Tiffany Henyard. And you see this all over the place in Illinois, and I don't like it, not one bit. You shouldn't be holding two elected offices. Just something in my gut tells me that that's not that's not a moral thing to do in government, is hold two government offices within, because Normal is within McLean County. Is she going to favor the Normal as a town over Bloomington in this Normal Township Supervisor role? I don't know. If you vote for Krystle for Normal Township Supervisor, though, you're going to be electing a person who wants to create rights and send you the bill for creating those rights. Okay, so we're going to get to it because BLN News, they came out with this amazing piece, Diane Benjamin, and I chuckled a little bit at the piece because it just explained it so well. You don't have a human right to housing. You don't have a human right to Ozempic. You don't have a human right to things that require somebody else to give you. Okay, goods and services, money. If it requires me to give you money or a good or service, then it's not a right. Rights are given to you by God, unalienable rights by God. And if it requires me to give you goods and services, that's not a right. So we're going to get to it. We're also going to get to American Airlines. They actually dropped their DEI policies after this America First legal lawsuit. That is going to be explosive. I actually know a couple of pilots in the industry. They sent me this, and I was like, that's interesting. And they're excited because if you talk to a white guy who is in the airline industry, okay, if you talk to a white guy, they're sick and tired of not getting promotions. Okay, because the way they conduct their promotional activity, it's all surrounded around insignificant birth traits like race, gender, or your sexual orientation. And this is a big win for the airline industry. So we're going to talk about it. Plus, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's firing shots at Congress for their newest spending bill that they're trying to jam through. I haven't talked about this much, but there was a lot of news about it yesterday. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, they're pushing back against this bill. And they're saying, hey, this is a bunch of pork. You're spending way too much. In fact, they're giving themselves raises. Yes, members of Congress gave themselves a big fat raise, although we're going through one of the worst inflationary periods of all time in American history, the highest inflation ever. And they're giving themselves raises, the members of Congress, and they squeezed that in there, and they're trying to say, oh, you don't want to provide aid to the hurricane victims. You're heartless, Republicans. How could you not pass this bill? Because it's just loaded with all kinds of pork and poor spending. So I didn't read the bill. Vivek Ramaswamy did, and I've combed through a little bit of it, but it's 1,500 pages long, folks. And if Vivek Ramaswamy read through it, I think that's going to be good enough for me. I might read through it. Sometimes I read through these things, but the 1,500 pages, I try to stay away from reading the federal spending bills. I've got enough to deal with Illinois. Their budgets are always really, really thick like that as well. All right. Before I get into any of that, personal quick story. Okay. I was at the post office. Okay. I had to mail out some Christmas cards, mail out a couple of Christmas gifts. Okay. I rarely use the United States Postal Office. Now, I'm not disparaging anybody who works for USPS. I'm not doing that. I know that y'all work very, very hard, but we need to have a conversation about how USPS is getting a ton of money from the government, your taxpayer dollars, and how the media is going to try to spin this into saying, oh no, the USPS, because now Donald Trump has come out and said that he's going to privatize completely the USPS. And people are like, Trump's so dumb. He's so dumb. It's already privatized. No, Trump knows exactly what he's saying. It all started when I went in to the USPS and I got the stamps, and they had holiday stamps, okay? And I wanted some holiday stamps, and I saw a stamp of Mary and Jesus. Okay, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that one. Upon further investigation, they refused to name Jesus, and I don't really like that they call the paintings. Now, I understand it's in Catholic, the Catholicism world, the painting world, where they call the painting itself Madonna and Child. Okay, and I think that the painters who did these paintings deliberately did that. They didn't want to call it Mary and Jesus. They called it Madonna and the Child. That's what the painting is called. But they obviously went to great lengths to avoid saying Mary and Jesus, okay, on this stamp. They wanted to refer to the stamp not as Mary and Jesus, who are depicted on this stamp, but they wanted to refer to the painting, and the painting is called Madonna and Child. They went to great lengths. It's obvious, it's painfully obvious that they went to great lengths to avoid saying the name or writing the name Jesus anywhere on the stamp. They did not want the name Jesus to be to appear at all. And what really it probably wouldn't have bothered me so much. Yeah, I get it. They named the stamp after the painting. To be very clear, though, it should have said Mary and Jesus. But what really grinded my gears wasn't so much that they named it Madonna and the Child. I could probably get over that. It's that they put the fake holiday Kwanzaa stamp right next to, and you can either buy the Kwanzaa stamps or you can buy the Madonna and the Child stamp. I'm going to call it the Mary and Jesus stamp. But they put the Kwanzaa stamp right next to that. And I just am so sick of this fake holiday that was invented by Ron Everett in the 60s, 1960s. Is a brand new holiday. And I have a question for you. Do you think Kwanzaa is a real holiday or is it fake? I am going to say it definitely should not be legitimized at all next to Christmas. We shouldn't have Kwanzaa stamps. I wonder if anybody uses the Kwanzaa stamps. Only 25% of Black Americans celebrate Kwanzaa. And I want to talk about the origins of Kwanzaa really quick. 1971. He was sentenced, the guy who invented this holiday, and I don't even really fully understand what they're supposed to be celebrating. It's like a anti-Christian holiday, and it celebrates Blackness, I guess. So it was invented, though, by this guy, and this guy invented it. Really, it's a holiday to celebrate. It's a holiday to celebrate him and his heritage and Black American heritage. Whatever, we already have days like that. Black History Month, we have an entire month dedicated to things like that. I don't know why we have to have a holiday dedicated to that sort of thing right next to Christmas. Like it's a Black Christmas. I don't understand. But only 25% of Black Americans, by the way, celebrate this thing. I want to talk about the guy who invented it. He was sentenced to 1 to 10 years in prison on felony assault charges and also false imprisonment. Okay, so he went, and here's how the Los Angeles Times, back in 1971, how they described the testimonies of the women who he captured and tortured these women. Deborah Jones, who was once given the Swahili title of the African Queen. So it sounds really cultish. I'll tell you right now what I think actually went on is that all of these people were a part of a cult, and then he captured these women in the cult, this black cult, African American cult, if you will, and he captured these women. He whipped them with an electrical cord, beat them with a karate baton, and then he had ordered them to remove their clothes. She testified, Deborah Jones did, that they had he had a hot soldering iron, placed it in Davis's mouth. Gail Davis is the other woman here. Placed it in her mouth and then placed it on her face, or placed it in Jones's mouth and on Davis's face. Now, this is a description by the Los Angeles Times, okay? This is by no means a conservative outlet that I'm getting my information from. I guess one of the women, she had her big toe tightened in a vise, where you tighten it and clamps down. It's a clamp. So this guy, Ron, also put detergent in their mouths and started running hoses in their mouths. He also hit them over the head with toasters. Okay, so that's the guy who invented this holiday. And to put that guy in his holiday that he invented to celebrate him and his blackness, okay, we put that holiday right next to Christmas. We have the USPS selling stamps next to Madonna and Child. Okay, God forbid you say Jesus, the name of Jesus. Now, he's denied that he did all of this torture, although he was convicted of this, and he only served some time. I think it was 5 years, maybe 4 years. And then he wrote his state officials, and his state officials got him off. He wrote black state officials to support his parole on fair sentencing grounds, and that was granted in 1975. Now, this whole organization of his, the organization, it was all about Pan-Africanism. That organization, aka what I think is a cult, disbanded after he was in prison. Now, while he was in prison, he wrote books and studied feminism, Pan-Africanism, and he wrote that's what he did while he was in prison, this California men's colony prison. So then he got out on parole, and reporters have attempted to talk with him about the conviction. He refuses to discuss it. In 2007, when he was at Wabash College, he declined and denied the charges. He said that he denied all of the charges, and then he described himself as a political prisoner. So your tax dollars are going towards all of this nonsense. They won't say the name of Jesus, the USPS, and then they sell stamps that have the little Kwanzaa character on it. And I just told you the origins of Kwanzaa. If you celebrate Kwanzaa, it's practically celebrating a Hitler. Okay, somebody who tortured women and was convicted of it. So your tax dollars go to this nonsense. And then there's going to be an argument out there. And I know people are going to argue with me, and they're going to say, oh, the USPS, they don't receive any taxpayer dollars. Yeah, not for their day-to-day operations, you dope. Over the past decade, the United States Postal Service has received a significant amount of financial assistance from Congress to address their financial challenges. Now, I don't know what the hell they're doing with their money in the USPS, but in 2020, the USPS received $10 billion loan to cover pandemic expenses. Okay, Kat, everybody was struggling with the pandemic and people got loans. This loan was later forgiven, effectively converting it into a grant. Okay, it wasn't a loan, it was a grant in 2020 and 2022. Under the Joe Biden administration, the Postal Service Reform Act was enacted, offering approximately $50 billion in financial relief over the next 10 years. By 2024, okay, just over a couple of years, the USPS, from 2020 to 2024, they have received, drumroll please, 120 billion flipping dollars, okay, from the taxpayers, okay, and then they had the cojones to ask for another 14 billion just recently. So these funds were allocated to the USPS to help manage their financial deficits, modernize their operations, and maintain commitment to providing nationwide mail services. Okay. I understand that the USPS is technically an independent of the federal government, and it generates revenue. So that's what's the most disturbing part about all of this, is that it also generates revenue, but it also gets these billions and billions and billions of dollars of grants. Okay. So I mean, to the tune of 120 divided by 4. Okay. Every year they're getting billions and billions of dollars, okay, from the government in financial assistance. Okay, now they're not directly receiving appropriations for its everyday operations, and they generate revenue on their own, like other services, like mail services, like FedEx, UPS. But you've got the government coming in here. They're intervening with your taxpayer dollars to stabilize this industry. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of it because they are duping you. You have to pay for stamps, but then they're also getting the government money. It's like, why the hell am I paying for this twice? And what are you doing with the financial aid that you've been getting? So it relies on the revenue for its day-to-day operations, but they still need government money to deal with their financial difficulties. So in summary, USPS, they're not consistently receiving funding in the form of appropriations, but yet they've been granted significant financial assistance, particularly due to crises like the COVID pandemic. And the U.S. Treasury has given them and let them borrow all kinds of money to maintain operations. And to put this into perspective, and then I got to take a quick break and I'm going to get to today's news. But this just really bothers me because, people are like, oh, Trump is stupid. He privatizing the USPS. Yeah, because they're actually getting billions and billions of taxpayer dollars every single year. To put this into perspective, USPS, they had about $80 billion in revenue in 2023. Okay, now that is not, revenue from the government. That's just their revenue from collecting your money with the stamps, with the boxes and the charging to, ship out things. $80 billion in revenue in 2023. And that was their own revenue. Okay, they generated all of that. FedEx had about 93 billion. So they had a little bit more because they charge more, but they can charge less because they're getting the government funding. FedEx had $93 billion in revenue, but both of them are making billions with the revenue. However, one company, USPS, is getting billions, as I just told you, in financial assistance and grants. So yet we've got this USPS getting all this grant funding. What the hell are you doing with the taxpayer money if you're making $80 billion in revenue just charging people? I mean, this is the biggest scandal, I think, that is facing Americans. And that is why Trump has come out prior to even taking office. And I think that he's going to make this a big deal because he sees the numbers and he understands this. Privatizing the USPS is the best thing that is going to happen to American taxpayers, but it's also going to be a really great thing to happen to Christians, because I can guarantee you if they were a private company, people would not shop there because they're putting Kwanzaa stamps next to the Madonna and child stamps because God forbid you say Jesus. So I think privatizing the USPS is going to be a good thing for not only American taxpayers, but also Christians, because I'd like to see a private company do that, pull that kind of stunt with the stamps. Okay, I'd like to see them pull that stunt and still receive money from Christians because, not going to happen. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. We're going to get into the news of the day. They didn't even offer him holiday stamps. Yeah, that's another big thing that really bothers me is every single time I go, you would think with all of this money, $80 billion in revenue without government assistance, okay, that's what they're pulling in from the stamp money, from, privatized, like they're not, for their day-to-day operations, they're not using government money, okay, but yet they're getting these bailouts from the government. What are they using that money for? Is it for pensions? Is it for payroll? FedEx, they're pulling in about the same, a little more, because, and here's the reason why they're probably pulling in a little bit more, is because they've got to charge more, because they can come in and undercut the USPS. They can come in and undercut FedEx all the time because they get the government dollars, so they can outprice FedEx every single time. It's the same thing with the Canadian lumber industry. Remember when I talked about that, where they're getting subsidies from the government, the lumber industry in Canada, and then they're dumping that product into the United States for cheap because they get the government money. You can't be cheap in FedEx because you don't get the government money to pay for your entire payroll. I mean, that's ridiculous. $120 billion over the course of 4 years. 4 years. That's insane. Yeah, I yes, USPS is like subsidizing horse and buggies. Great. Yeah, I like this comment too. They didn't even offer them. So whenever I go into the USPS, the United States Postal Service, some of the women are really nice in there. But however, you definitely don't get the service that you would with Amazon. Okay. Now, say what you will about Amazon. I hate Jeff Bezos as much as the next guy. But Amazon gets it done. You can get on your phone, order a package, send a package, and have it get there in a couple of days. And they keep you aware of where your package is at all times. They send you pictures when your package gets there. The USPS has nothing like that. Nothing close to that at all. And I go in and, I've got a couple of things in my hands and, I know how this works. I've mailed out packages before. They usually print the label. I've never had somebody tell me to write the address on the box and also print the label to put on the box as well. And she wanted me to write it and pretty much duplicated the address of where my package was going. And I mean, this is the best way to put this. Yes. Subsidizing the USPS is like subsidizing horse and buggies. You don't get the service considering that you are paying for the state. You're paying twice as much to use the USPS because your government dollars, your taxpayer dollars, remember, the government doesn't make money. They take money from you. Over the course of 4 years, $120 billion. That's a staggering number, staggering. So when Donald Trump says that he wants to privatize the USPS, he knows what he's talking about. And there's nothing that bothers me more than people who are just ignorant or uneducated when it comes to the USPS. If they were truly privatized, like the media would like you to believe, then they probably wouldn't even be called the United States Postal System. Okay, they probably would have changed the name. However, they're still getting tons of government dollars. So Santa's going to cut the cost on elf labor. Santa, you know what? Santa has elf slaves. We need to get Antifa and BLM on this because Santa is actually using slave labor. Like Goshen does in Manteno, Illinois, like they're going to probably do, where you guys know the electric vehicle battery maker, and that's a big thing. Congress, federal letters have been sent, asking, hey, Goshen, can you explain your slave practices and the companies that you use who participate in slave practices? Actually, here in Illinois, there was a company, and I did this story a couple of weeks ago, where HelloFresh, they were caught with some teenage migrants, and hired them. And that was child slave labor. So, yeah, Santa's going to cut cost on elf labor. Yeah. Yeah, it bothers me so much, the USPS, and it bothers me that I don't know why people want to defend this so vehemently. I don't know if it's just a conditioning of our minds to like a U.S. postal worker is to blame here. No. I think that everybody knows somebody who works in the in the U.S. postal system. And that's why we're like so hesitant to call out what this is really all about. And I don't know what they're doing with the money. It would be really interesting to take a look at their financials, because where are you putting $120 billion? I want to know. Because you're generating revenue that's comparable to all of the other guys, slightly less by $13 billion. But I mean, the math isn't mathing here. If you're making the same amount as your competitors, and your competitors aren't receiving financial assistance, yet they pay all of their employees just fine. It makes absolutely no sense why you're receiving government dollars if you're generating the same revenue as the other guys. Makes absolutely no sense. All right. I will be back. I do want to talk about this. Here we go. Krystle label, normal township supervisor. If you vote for her, you're electing a person who wants to create rights, and then they're going to send you the bill for those people who they create rights for. What do I mean by that? Let's get into it. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in. Now, let's get into the headlines. If you vote for Krystle Label for Normal Township Supervisor 1, I don't really like that. She's already a county board member. I feel like there's like a conflict of interest there. You probably shouldn't be serving in two elected capacities. You've seen what goes on when that kind of stuff happens in Dalton, the village of Dalton. She calls herself super mayor. Okay, so that's Tiffany Henyard. She's the mayor of the village of Dalton, and she doubles, not anymore because she didn't win the nomination, but she doubled as the Thornton Township supervisor. There's also a guy in the state legislature right now. He's the Calumet City mayor. Let me look up his name. I forget his name. So Thaddeus Jones, that's it. Mayor Thaddeus Jones. So he's the Calumet City mayor. So he's the mayor, but yet he's also a state legislator, which makes no sense to me. Why in the world are we doing this in the state of Illinois? I feel like we should probably craft some sort of statewide legislation that says that you can only hold one elected office at one time. I don't like that because it feels like you're going to obviously have a conflict of interest, right? If you're appropriating money at a state level, would you appropriate more money to Calumet City, being that you're the mayor there? Okay, like it just feels icky to me that she's going for now Normal Township supervisor while remaining a county board member in the first place. But she, if elected, is going to be a person who wants to create rights and send you the bill. I've got a story from BLN News that we're going to get to, but I also want to talk about American Airlines. They're dropping their DEI policies after a lawsuit. Great news. Let's make America merit-based again, right? Not race-based or gender-based, insignificant birth trait-based, right? Let's actually get pilots in these positions who know what they're doing and do it and hire and promote based on your qualifications. We're going to talk about that. Plus, DOGE, Vivek Ramaswamy, he is taking shots at Congress with this newest spending bill that they're trying to ram through before Christmas. So we're going to talk about all of it here on Conservative Cat. Go ahead and find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. According to BLN News, bleeding heart liberals don't believe in personal responsibility. They use government to redistribute your money for votes. Rights come from God, not the government. Government changes its mind depending on who is in charge and how much money they have. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness never change. Okay, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, how do you know rights are faked, or if they're fake rights? If the right depends on taking goods and services from someone else, who is responsible for fulfilling it, okay, if somebody else becomes responsible for fulfilling that right, then it's no longer a right. It's theft of goods and services, okay? Now, if you mandate somebody provide a good or service, that is not a right. That is stealing somebody's goods, somebody's services, and forcing them to give that to somebody else, okay? That's what this is all about. Like I said, Democrats, leftist liberals, they do not like personal responsibility. Okay, now people don't have a right to housing, healthcare, or food. Okay, I'm sorry. I know that's going to probably sting for some people, but you don't. Americans are very generous people, willing to share with those unable to take care of themselves. They aren't willing to permanently fund a lifestyle choice that will negate personal responsibility. BLN News put this great. She says, Diane Benjamin, Illinois will never be a state people flee to for freedom like Florida, because rights here are created for votes. Okay, so if I give this community here free housing, and I, mandate this community, if I mandate Normal to provide free housing to 20,000+ migrants or whatever, right? This is a hypothetical. If I mandate that and say that the town of Normal has to do that, and I was a legislator, did that, I just bought myself 20,000 votes with those people who were housed for free. Okay, that's what this is all about. It's not about actually helping these people. They're buying votes. they're redistributing your taxpayer dollars to buy votes. It's money for votes. Okay, they use the government to redistribute your money for the votes. Now, I like how BLN News puts it. Ridiculous pension rights have created massive debt and required almost 25% of all revenue. Illinois has a long list of rights that prevent prosperity for anyone not holding a government-associated job. Okay, why are you, as a government employee, a public employee, a school teacher, somebody who receives a pension, why are you entitled to retirement over me who chose the private sector life? And now I have to subsidize or pay or have my tax dollars stolen from me to give to you because somebody said somewhere that retirement and your pension is a right, a so-called right, okay? What about all the people in Illinois who were laid off in the private sector? What about their so-called rights, right? Why should anybody have to pay into their own retirement? People in the private sector, okay? If your pension is a right, then perhaps we should start giving pensions to people in the private sector or retirement plans to the people in the private sector. It's not a right, okay? Anytime, and I like how they say this here, how do you know your rights are fake? If the right depends on taking goods and services from someone else who is responsible for that, for providing that for themselves, and they're not fulfilling it for themselves, but you're requiring me to fulfill it for you, that is not a right. That is taking things from me to give to you. Okay? So if you vote for Krystle Abel for normal township supervisor, you're going to be electing a person who wants to create rights and then send you the bill. She posted this on her Facebook page. If she didn't believe people have the right to housing at your expense, she would have said it. She wouldn't have said it. So she said this on Facebook. She obviously believes that housing is a right. Housing is not a right, like I said. Food is not a right. Healthcare is not a right. And I know that stings for some people, but we're not willing to permanently fund your lifestyle. People require different types of food. People require different types of healthcare. People require different types of housing. Okay, that's your personal responsibility because not one house fits all, not one healthcare plan fits all, not one food plan fits all. Okay, these are personal things that you should be taking responsibility for. Here's what she said on Facebook: is housing a human right? Question mark. And she tells us about this Illinois Senate Human Rights Committee, which is so stupid. They held this hearing on the topic of housing as a human right. She said, if you're interested in listening, I'll attach the Senate website below to listen to the hearing. During the hearing, advocates and individuals will share their personal stories so our legislators can learn directly from their constituents about the challenges they face trying to find safe, accessible, and affordable places to live. Okay, now housing, like I said, not a right. She wouldn't have posted this if she didn't think that housing was a right, I would imagine. Okay, if she didn't believe people have the right to housing at your expense, she wouldn't have said this on her social media page or recommended you go check out this hearing. And it just shocks me how dumb normal can be. Really, if you're voting for Krystle, what's wrong with you for town supervisor? Number one, the main reason why you probably shouldn't vote for her for town supervisor is that she's a sitting county board member. And I don't know about you, but that sounds shady to me, especially when we've seen the corruption come out of Dalton Village, or the village of Dalton. And we have a super mayor there where she doubles as the Thornton Township supervisor. And then she's also the Dalton Village mayor. Okay. I don't like that. I don't like that you're doing that. It's very weird. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to get to the American Airlines. They had no choice but to drop their racist policies, their DEI policies, obviously illegal. You cannot hire solely based on insignificant birth traits like your skin color in this country. So this is breaking just in. American Airlines ending their DEI employment practices. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Merry Christmas. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Go ahead, smash that like button if you're watching. we are going to come back talking about DEI and how it's obviously illegal. The U.S. Department of Labor has confirmed that the American Airlines will end their sex-based and race-based discrimination in hiring and promotions. Now, I know a couple of white guys in this industry, and they're getting pretty sick and tired of not getting promotions over, somebody who just no experience, but just because they're black, they get the promotion, and they're not getting the promotion, although they're highly qualified. So we're going to get to that. But what do you think? Housing, a human right? I don't think so. And I think that BLN News, they put this really kind of perfectly. I'm going to throw it here in the comment section, just taking it from BLN News. People don't have a right to housing, healthcare, and food. Americans are not willing to permanently fund your lifestyle choices. Okay, that negate you from taking personal responsibility. It's not a right to be on Ozempic. Okay, so I don't know why I'm funding it for the state employees. They wanted it included in their plan. These are very, very costly drugs. And because you have chosen to be fat, okay, and you chose a lifestyle where you ended up fat, shoving Twinkies and Ho-Hos in your mouth, okay, it shouldn't be on me to pay for your medical or health care. And it definitely shouldn't be on me to pay even further into that, which is your Ozempic. What's next? Are you going to require me to pay for your plastic surgery? Are you going to require me to pay for your nails every week or your hair? Like, at what point are we going to say enough is enough? Okay, enough is enough. I'm not paying for all of this anymore. I opened the show with the U.S. Postal System, $120 billion over the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024. These are numbers that you can just pull. Okay, during COVID, they got like $10 billion. It was supposed to be a loan, but they wound up not having to pay it back. So effectively, it made it a grant. The Postal Service Reform Act of 2022, it provided financial relief to the USPS. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of paying for things that it doesn't really make sense. They're generating revenue that's comparable to their competitors, FedEx, UPS. They're generating that type of revenue on their own privately because they're doing their own thing. Like, really, it feels kind of shady. Like, what the hell are you doing with this money if you're generating what are you spending it on? Are you spending it on pensions? Are you spending it on people's retirement plans? Because guess what, folks? Your pension is not a right. Okay. Why in the world aren't we paying for? Okay, if pensions are a right, okay, public sector employees are like, oh, pensions are a right. Pensions are a right. My retirement plan, it's my right. No. You don't have a right to retirement. Okay, that's on you. Really, I don't even understand why we do pensions in the public sector for the public sector. And like matches to their pension. I don't even know why we do it at all. We're already paying you with government money. Why in the world would we continue to pay you a pension after you leave the public service? Okay. It makes absolutely no sense, but that's your personal responsibility, your retirement. We should be paying, like, if you want to say pensions are a right or retirement is a right, okay, what about all of those people who were laid off in Illinois? So many people, unemployment, and they're getting unemployment. But people in the private sector, they have to fund their own retirement. Okay, now their company will match it if they're a good company, right? And they'll pay them, more. You can contribute to your retirement, and then they'll match it with like 401k matches and things like that. And if the private company chooses to do that, most likely they're going to get more people to work for them, okay? Because that's a great benefit that you offer as a company. But, we're not forcing private companies to give them retirement. and we're not getting government money and funneling government money into people's pockets for retirement. Like if you work in the private sector, that's up to your company. Well, we probably do force private companies to provide retirement. We force them definitely to provide sick days. There was pet bereavement days. Like if your pet dies, you have to provide like X amount of sick days, right? Like government tries to force private sector to do this kind of stuff all of the time. The government doesn't pay for the private sector employees' retirement. If it wasn't right, government would be paying for the private sectors, but no, they just want to take care of their own. Okay, that's what this is all about. So I can't think about this too much. I get too angry. Yeah, I start to get angry when I see my taxpayer dollars just get. And you want to talk about angry? Let's talk about Vivek Ramaswamy calling out Congress's new spending bill, where they gave themselves all kinds of raises. Although you're living through the worst inflationary crisis of all time of American history, in American history, the worst inflation crisis. But they gave themselves raises. God, it pisses me off. I know. I know. Don't get too angry. We're back. Go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back talking about American Airlines dropping their DEI policies because of a lawsuit. Woohoo! Good morning. Hey, I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I want to talk about DEI, American Airlines. They had no choice but to drop those DEI policies. You cannot hire solely based on skin color in this country. It's illegal. It's breaking federal law. So, breaking news, American Airlines ending their DEI employment practices. The U.S. Department of Labor has confirmed that American Airlines will end their sex-based, race-based discrimination in hiring and promotions following the America First Legal's federal civil rights complaint. Okay, so here's the story. According to Post Millennial, American Airlines will no longer be recruiting or hiring based on diversity, equity, inclusion policies. Okay, the company admitted that the policy is in violation of federal laws that protect equal access to employment. Now, this is a big deal because I'd imagine other industries are going to follow suit. They had to come out and admit that they were violating federal law. And you know what really bothers me about this is that they would have continued to do this, the DEI crap, if it wasn't against, or if they hadn't been caught. Okay, they did this, and then they admitted that it was wrong and in violation of federal law only after they got caught. Did they think that they were going to be immune to federal laws? Why would they do this in the first place? It's got to be the ESG scores, right? And they know that's going to be taken away as soon as Donald Trump gets in. So they probably had no problem admitting that they were breaking federal laws because they know that they're not going to get the ESGs anymore because Donald Trump is going to come in and shut that all down. So the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, the OFCCP, informed America First Legal about the decision. Quote, American companies must return to using merit. Let's make merit great again, okay? Using merit. Make America use merit again, okay? Not the desire to check a DEI box, okay? To select the most skilled and qualified employees. That's what they should be doing. American Airlines agreement with the OFCCP is America First Legal's latest victory in our fight to put illegal discrimination on the no-fly list. Now, that's according to the First Legal Council. They said that they wanted to put this illegal discrimination on the no-fly list. DEI policies, sorry, you're on the no-fly list. Who'd have guessed? Hiring on merit rather than skin color is actually the moral way to go. And it's almost like our federal laws are moral and keep morality in place, right, in the United States. So, yeah, you can't hire based on skin color and significant birth rates. And like I said, they are only stopping this racist hiring practice because they got caught. It's not like they had a sudden revelation that this was evil or that it was immoral. They just are doing this now because they got caught. And we can't forget what they've done with this DEI nonsense and how immoral it actually is and how sick it actually is. That's discrimination. The decision came as a result of a complaint filed by America First Legal against the American Airlines with the OFCCP, which accused the company of not complying with federal law, even though airlines, now get this, we've been talking about government money and USPS, they got $120 billion over the course of 4 years from 2020 to 2024. They're generating their own revenue. $80 billion in revenue, which is comparable to FedEx. FedEx doesn't get government money. Where the hell is the government money going? Okay. Anytime you fly, it's a terrible experience. Anytime you use the US postal system, typically not a great experience. Any government subsidy industry, any industry that is subsidized by the government, typically terrible. Okay. But get this, the airline receives does a massive amount of business with the federal government and has been the beneficiary of $140 million in federal contracts since 2008. Okay, $140 million. This is a highly subsidized industry. You'd think that they'd know the federal law, huh? They think that because they're getting money from the government, they can skirt government, or again, they can skirt the federal law. So in order to qualify for those contracts, AA had to promise to adhere to Executive Order 11246. And what is Executive Order 11246? Well, that is the law that prohibits discrimination in hiring, promotion, or employee training based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Now, it has failed. If it has failed to do so and has embraced discrimination based on race and sex in its hiring practices, it failed to do so when, getting people into the Cadet Academy program. It failed to hire not based on race, color, and religion and sex when doing promotional activity. So I know a couple of guys who are in this industry, and they tell me that they can't get promoted because of the practices from American Airlines and other industries like Spirit. What are some other ones? Text me the airline you use. Is there a specific airline you use? 309-451-9299. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Despite receiving and being the beneficiary of $140 million since 2008, the airline industry here, this is American Airlines, okay, they have these contracts with the government. In order to qualify now for those contracts, they have to follow and adhere to federal law. And federal law says that you cannot hire based on race, sex, religion, national origin. They failed to hire based on merit, and rather they hired based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin. And, air travel is a huge deal. It really is. And how could they have thought that box checking, if you're a lesbian, if you're black, how is that the best way to hire people? I mean, this is a huge deal. You've got people's lives in your hands. We're talking about air travel here. And to be honest with you, it sounds like somebody who checked a box and didn't get hired based on merit actually came up with these DEI policies. So I'm glad that this has been dismantled by America First Legal. It's unclear how leftist corporations can get away with breaking such laws. Really, I think that a lot of these pilots or people within the industry, they probably have a good lawsuit of damages if they can prove that they were denied a promotion because they were white. With this lawsuit, it shows that they were breaking federal law, and I don't know how they get away with it. If the roles were reversed in a certain skin color, they didn't prioritize or uplift like white people had done this, okay? If white people had said, oh, we're only going to hire based on race, and we're going to hire white people only or straight people only, could you imagine? They would never let this go. But they just get a slap on the wrist, these people. Okay, this was immoral. You were hiring based on race, sex, religion. This is totally immoral, and they only get a slap on the wrist. But if the roles were reversed, if white people had been in charge of the DEI policy, okay, and they said, oh, we're only going to hire white people or promote white people or white straight men, if they had said that, this story would be everywhere. But because the roles are reversed and somebody who checked a box made up this DEI policy and implemented the policy, the double standards, this is an understatement to call this double standards. And that being said, at least DEI is dying. Bye-bye, DEI. We'll see you later. Never. I hope to see you never. We're finally going to make America merit-based again. I'm excited about that. And because I think that we're actually going to see excellence again in most industries. When you go somewhere, I was talking about plumbing, right? We had a guy come and I don't know, he was hired and smelled like pot. It was terrible. And he says, you guys seem to know what you're doing, right? We had already kind of worked on the plumbing. There's no excellence in any industry anymore. And it's because they're not hiring based on merit. They're hiring based on color, sex, sexual orientation, your religion, and that's just wrong. And it's immoral, and I'm glad that America First Legal had stood up to these guys and got them to admit that they broke federal law. I got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. He's speaking out against Congress's newest spending bill. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble, and subscribe to the channel today. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. Rudolph was a DEI hire. I was actually just talking about this. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense why Rudolph was hired by Santa to lead the sleigh. I hear that Rudolph is much smaller, probably not the beefiest reindeer, but just because he had this tiny little red nose, which probably couldn't light up the sky. There's much better ways, more efficient ways than hiring on a guy who has like this little red nose. But I don't know, maybe that was a qualification. It was a qualification that nobody else had, his little white red nose, But no, he was a DEI hire. Was not a DEI hire. Oh, I read that wrong. Was not a DEI hire. Yeah, he actually had qualifications that kind of put him out front there. He brought something new to the table, an ability that nobody else had. You could make the argument it wasn't an ability because it was his, he was born with a red nose. I don't know. uh, but I find it hard to believe that a little red nose. Think about this: Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's a tiny little red nose. You expect to believe like if I had a red light on my phone, it wouldn't light up the room. Okay, if I like a little red light on my phone, it wouldn't light up the room, let alone the entire night sky. Okay. So yeah, the Rudolph being not a DEI hire, is he a DEI hire because it's a birth rate, but it's not insignificant. That is a significant birth rate that kinds of puts him aside than anybody else. So for example, men are hired to do jobs that I wouldn't do, right? They're oilmen, working the oil rigs and things like that, and construction and scaffolding or whatever the case may be. And they are just physically have a biological advantage over women, and that's why they are typically hired in those roles. Now, if women can do that job, more power to you. But if you don't possess that ability to be able to climb skyscrapers or do a physically taxing job, then you're not going to be hired because the job requires you to do a physically taxing job. So, I mean, you could kind of see Rudolph as that, maybe, right? He had a physical ability that nobody else had, but the job had required. So, yeah, we're going to be right back talking a little bit about Vivek Ramaswamy speaking out against Congress's newest spending bill. Go ahead, smash that like button and share this out with your friends. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in. Yes, I opened the 6 o'clock hour and I had to do this. It just bothered me so much when I was at the postal office or the post office yesterday. I was getting some stamps and they avoided saying the name Jesus. They, derived the stamp from the painting. And I understand that the painting is called Madonna and the Child, but it's clearly Mary and Jesus. And if they just wanted to be accurate, they would have just said, here's the Mary and Jesus stamp, right? Or even, just calling it the Christian stamp or the Christmas stamp, okay? I wouldn't have been too upset about this, them avoiding the name of Jesus, but they had this fake holiday Kwanzaa stamp next to it, and that really bothers me because Kwanzaa is a illegitimate holiday. It's not real, it's fake, and it's stupid. Okay, because it was created by a guy in the 1960s. He was a communist who tortured women, was convicted of torturing women, and only 25% of Black Americans celebrate Kwanzaa. Nobody's buying that stupid Kwanzaa stamp, okay? This kind of reminds me of the Stanley bit from The Office. Now, I love this video. It's a bit dated, I understand, but there's like this war on Christmas every single year, and everybody's always really afraid to say Merry Christmas. And nobody really wants to say Merry Christmas anymore. But now that Donald Trump kind of won, I think that everybody's like, okay, we see where everybody lines up. And, we're no longer afraid of saying the M word or the C word, Merry Christmas. Uh, and you shouldn't be holiday shamed, okay? Christmas is Christmas. And to put Kwanzaa up there next to it is just absolutely ridiculous. Stanley Hudson from The Office. Now, I don't know if you guys watch The Office, but he does not care. Okay, he wants Christmas. So every so often, somebody will point out the fact that Americans love watching The Office, but you can never make that type of show anymore because of the stuff that they have in it, the clips that they have in it. Now, this was the #1 watch show during the pandemic, The Office, and there's a reason why, because it's hilarious and it's funny. And people claim that you could never make The Office today because of how liberal and woke everybody is. It would offend everybody. But I think that people say that, you could never make it today because of clips like this. Here's Stanley Hudson. I love this clip. I pull it out every year. Take a listen.
Who's excited to get their holiday wishes?
Holiday wishes.
What's that, Stanley?
We know exactly what holiday you're referring to.
It is important to be mindful of all belief systems at our holiday party.
I've been here 18 years and have suffered through some weird thematic Christmases. A Honolulu Christmas, a Pulp Fiction Christmas, a Muslim Christmas, Moroccan Christmas, Morocco Christmas. I don't want it. Christmas is Christmas is Christmas is Christmas.
I got Stanley tickets to see Louis Black for his birthday. Might not have been the best idea.
I don't want no Kwanzaa wreath. I don't need a dreidel in my face. That's its own thing. And who's that black Santa for? I don't care. I know Santa ain't black. I could care less. I want Christmas. Just give me plain baby Jesus lying in a manger Christmas.
Just give me plain baby Jesus lying in a manger Christmas. Yeah, Muslim Christmas. The rant continues. He says Moroccan Christmas, Morocco Christmas. I don't want it. I want Christmas. Christmas is Christmas. Just give me plain baby Jesus lying in a manger Christmas. So Stanley really goes off. And yeah, I mean, there's so many lies about Kwanzaa, okay? I'm 99% sure that you don't know a single person who celebrates Kwanzaa. Can you honestly think of somebody who actually celebrates Kwanzaa? Okay. And to say that this is a legitimate holiday just really grinds my gears because this guy, like I said, Ron Everett, he was a communist who was convicted of torturing women. He's the guy who invented it, and he invented it for himself. You understand? Jesus didn't invent Christmas, okay? They didn't celebrate Christmas until much, much later after Jesus, right? And it's a celebration of his life, but he wasn't the one who invented it, okay? The guy who invented Kwanzaa wants you to celebrate him and his blackness and everybody's blackness in this little cult that he made. That's what I'm going to say. It sounds like a cult, and the testimony from these women who were tortured by this guy, who's convicted of this. He whipped him with electrical cords. I mean, really, really bizarre. Like, not, and this guy's out. He's out. He petitioned several black state officials who were sympathetic to him and gave him parole. And he calls himself a former political prisoner. He whipped these women with electrical cords. He beat them with a karate baton. He tightened one of their big toes in a vise. And then he also put a hot soldering iron in one of the women's mouth and then put it on another woman's face. 2 women he tortured, and then he beat them over the head with toasters. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So to say that Kwanzaa is a legitimate holiday just absolutely drives me bonkers. All right, I do want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy. He is going after, of course, Congress because they gave themselves raises. Yes, they gave themselves raises in this new spending bill, and it just drives me bonkers. This spending bill that they're trying to ram down your throats right before Christmas. And, the majority of members of Congress have likely not taken the time to read over the 1,500 pages. I doubt that they've actually read over the 1,500 pages. We know that Vivek Ramaswamy did. He made a video and talks about how, they're gonna sit there and pretend like, Republicans are holding this bill hostage, and it's supposed to help hurricane victims, but they're not willing to bend on really crucial issues, and they're jamming this through to try to help the hurricane victims, which would not even be necessary, by the way, had they just used the FEMA funds for the hurricane victims, and they didn't use the FEMA funds for the foreign nationals. Okay, it could be further from the truth that that Republican Congress members who won't vote for this are withholding aid from hurricane victims. And, there's so much pork in this, and none of this pork is in your best interests. It's only in the Congress members' best interest. So I want to play this clip. This is the DOGE, DOGE's Vivek Ramaswamy. He's already taking shots at the government. Take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
Congress is about to pass a bill that blows away your taxpayer money, but they made it over 1,500 pages long so you wouldn't read it. I did you a favor. I read it for you. It's supposed to be about keeping government operations open and providing disaster relief aid to hurricane victims, which I'm sympathetic to. But if you read the bill carefully, it contains pay raises for members of Congress, and I'm not making this up, an expansion of their federal health benefits. It contains all kinds of special interests and pork funding, including opening up a new stadium in Washington, D.C. It renews the Global Engagement Center, which is a key node of the censorship industrial complex. And the worst part is, they didn't want you to know about any of it, and that's why they made this a last-minute jam job. The reason I'm co-heading DOGE is I think we need outsiders to bring actual accountability to Washington, D.C. So feel free to call your congressman and let them know how you feel about it. Congress is about
So there you go. I got it. They are trying to jam through this spending bill, and what it includes is a 40% pay raise to members of Congress. How is that going to help people who lost their homes in the Southeast with these natural disasters in recent years? How is that going? A 40% pay bump for members of Congress. How does expanding their health benefits for public officials, help anyone but them? Really? Does that help you in any kind of way? Does that help the hurricane victims, the Hurricane Helene victims? No. And they're jamming this through for a reason. There's no transparency for a reason. They need to jam this through because of what they've shoved in there. Anytime Congress wants to rush something, it's safe to conclude that it's not in the best interest of the American people. So according to the New York Post, Musk, he called on voters to directly call their representatives to stop the stealing of their taxpayer dollars in this scam bill. Here's what Ramaswamy said on X, quote, "It's full of excessive spending, special interest giveaways, and pork barrel politics." Yeah, I'd be kind of curious to find out if the U.S. postal system is getting money out of this bill. I bet they are, which is complete bogus because I told you $80 billion in revenue that they generate on their own without government money, but they've gotten $120 billion over the last 4 years. Complete nonsense. If Congress wants to get serious about government efficiency, they should vote no. That's what Ramaswamy said on X. He also said Congress has known about this deadline since they created it in late September. Okay, so now they're ramming this through deadline. They've got to get it done, I think, by the end of the week or something. There's no reason why this couldn't have been done through a standard process. Instead, they rushed it to a vote right before congressmen want to go home for the holidays. The urgency is 100% manufactured. They knew about this date back in September when they voted on this date, okay? And Congress, they're getting their pay raises. They passed also legislation, by the way, the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan Act, the tie-breaking vote on both of those, Kamala Harris. I'll explain this really quickly. In the Inflation Reduction Act, you've got, for example, a taxpayer or a tax credit. So people will get $7,000+ to buy an electric vehicle. Okay, that's what the Inflation Reduction Act was all about, was handing out money to people to go buy EVs. You know what Ford did? They raised the cost of all of their electric vehicles by $8,000. Okay, so that's called inflation. And the Inflation Reduction Act was actually the Inflation Act, if you ask me. So this Congress, they have passed legislation that caused some of the worst inflation in modern American history. It's comical. It's a slap in the face to you and me that they want to give themselves raises and they're pretending to represent you. They could care less about you. Okay, so HR Furthering Continue Appropriations Act of 2025, House Resolution. Let me simplify why Elon Musk and people are pounding the table and saying, Elon Musk is bad. Why is he not letting this bill get passed? He's shutting down the government, right? There's lots of hidden agendas in this bill. Number one, funding for alleged censorship operations, okay? The bill supports government agencies like Vivek Ramaswamy had talked about who are involved in what's considered to be illegal censorship, okay? So there's funding to those industries, or to those agencies, those government agencies who participate in censorship of Americans. Excessive spending. The bill supports many unnecessary expenditures to gain political support. They, of course, are expending money to buy the votes, right? This is what congressmen, women do. Lack of transparency, the bill's complexity and length. There are mechanisms to hide details from the public and that need legislative review. Okay, there should be people talking about some of this legislation on the floor. There's a process, bring it to that legislation up to the vote separately. But they're sliding policy, like legislation, like actual policy, into this bill to hide it from the American public. So the bill includes policy bills. Like I said, the bill bundles other policy changes with this funding bill. It should only be about appropriations. But it's not. This is the way to pass controversial policies and hide it under the radar and not talk about it on the floor. Redundant government programs. The bill supports funding for many programs that are redundant and overlap, something that DOGE is trying to get rid of, the Department of Government Efficiency. Okay, so here's what's going on. The government wants to ensure that they have all kinds of money, being that Donald Trump is going to come in and got the place, okay? Some in the media establishment are going to argue that the 1,500 pages, this is super, super transparent, and it's totally transparent, although it's 1,500 pages, and this is the most transparent document that you could ever imagine. Sure. It's actually 1,500 pages because they want to hide crucial details that are deeply, deeply unpopular with the American people. And additionally, the fact that this bill allegedly supports censorship operations proves how little this has to do with with you and what you want as an American. These people are supposed to be representing you. It has nothing to do with that, and it has everything to do with emboldening the bureaucracy that Donald Trump is going to get rid of. Okay, he's going to get rid of all the bureaucracy, all these stupid government agencies that are duplicated when he gets in. But they're trying to embolden that bureaucracy before he gets in. It's almost like an insurance policy for them. Okay, that's what this bill is. It's an insurance policy for your public sector bureaucrats. Congress does not vote. If they vote in favor of censorship, I don't know how that's going to be in the best interest of the hurricane victims. Okay, they're censoring Americans right now as we speak. Big tech, they're censoring Americans when it comes to these hurricane victims. They're trying to say that, FEMA didn't allocate money to illegal immigrants, when in fact they did. They would have had money had not FEMA done that. They're censoring Americans, and I don't think that that's beneficial to anyone, let alone the hurricane victims, because there needs to be transparency, and people need to be called out for this nonsense. That money should have been there for those hurricane victims. This is a slap in the face. It's really a slap in the face. It doesn't even begin to describe the insanity that is America. And Musk, he couldn't say it better. It's in his Twitter bio. It says this, quote, "The people voted for government reform, and it's exactly this reason why it's needed now more than ever." Okay, we need government reform. Why? Because we voted for it. We voted for Donald Trump to get in and to dismantle the bureaucracy. So right before he gets in, what they're trying to do is embolden that bureaucracy because they're scared. They're scared. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I'll be right back. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Zero to Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. You're probably going to hear a lot of people pounding their fists on the table saying, Elon Musk, why is he not letting this get passed? He's going to shut down the government. Let me simplify for you why Elon Musk and people are upset about this bill. Okay, Vivek Ramaswamy, I just played that clip before we took a break. It's funding alleged censorship operations, government agencies who are involved in censorship of Americans. They're appropriating your tax dollars to that. They're also giving themselves a 40% raise. I don't know about you, but you probably didn't get a 40% raise this year, your Congress members, although they have nothing to show for it, right? There's no reason why they should be getting a 40% raise. They actually passed legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, that caused massive inflation. And you shouldn't get a raise, being that we're living in one of the worst inflationary crises of modern American history. Come on, give me a break here. There's excessive spending. There's a lack of transparency. There's 1,500 pages of this bill, and within it, there's policy bills. You're not supposed to do that with the appropriations bill, right? It should just be appropriations. What they're trying to do here is shove these controversial policies, probably woke DEI crap. They're probably shoving all of that in there and hiding it under the radar. Now, I haven't read it. Vivek Ramaswamy read the bill in its entirety. Apparently, there's a lot of redundant government programs in there, things that DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, wants to eliminate. You can't have two government programs doing this exact same thing. And what they're doing here is duplicating government programs, and there's overlap. They want to get rid of all of that. So the bill is 1,547 pages long, 1,547 pages long, and it's supposed to be passed by Friday. Okay, this Friday, tomorrow, to prevent a government shutdown. I don't really care if the government shuts down. I think it'll be fine. Okay. I really, on your day-to-day, how does any kind of government industry affect your day-to-day? It really doesn't. So there's crucial details in here that are deeply, deeply unpopular with the American people, and they're shoving it in there and they're trying to jam it through for a reason, by the way. They knew about this date back in September. Okay, the reason why they're jamming it through is because there's these deeply, deeply unpopular policies in this bill. So Congress, they're supposed to pass by Friday. We'll have to see. Vivek Ramaswamy actually and Elon Musk have come out and said that you should call your legislators and tell them not, or call your congressmen and tell them not to vote for this thing. But I also want to get to this. This is a story out of California, and I want you to file this under, hey, let me check my kids' homework when they come home from school today. This is a story that serves as a reminder that you should be checking your students' homework. And parents are now speaking out, and they're deeply, deeply enraged about this kind of stuff. So this father ripped into this Vista Unified School District board, okay, after students at this Vista High School, Rancho Buena High School, it's in California, they put some activist type content. That's all I can really say about it. It's activism, it's grooming. And he goes, I don't think that this assignment should be taught to children. It does nothing. It doesn't do anything, but it does groom them. Okay, now James Leon, he's the father of the student, and he ripped into the school board here. So this high school math teacher, this is what really doesn't make sense about it. He assigned it, and it's a coming out exercise. So this high school math teacher assigned it to the students, and now the parents are really upset about this assignment, and it was a coming out exercise. So you had to pretend like you were gay or lesbian, and you were like coming out, even though you might not be gay or lesbian. They had these high schoolers act like they were gay or lesbian and act out coming out, which is just really weird. And it's a math teacher, for God's sake. They should be learning math. Okay, so let's take a listen. Here we go.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. I am here to talk about an assignment that was showed into my daughter's classroom. I'm going to read the assignment. I do have a picture, but that's neither here nor there. It says, stand in a circle. Each of you is now gay or lesbian, and you're about to begin your coming out process. You cannot talk for the rest of this activity. I don't see how this is part of the California curriculum for education. There's nothing that it does other than groom children. It's not okay. It's disgusting, and it should not be allowed. I was told by the vice principal of Rancho the first time I called that it was not part of the curriculum. I then emailed Dr. Villarreal. He emailed me back saying, oh no, this is definitely part of the curriculum, this specific activity. Then he had one of his other vice principals call me to confirm that it was really part of this curriculum. I have tried to get into contact with Dr. Villarreal over the phone about 7 times, 8 times, and just failed every single time. He has not reached out to me himself personally, other than the first email contact that we had. I've reached out to Dr. Matt Doyle. I do understand that we will be having a meeting between January 6th and the 13th, I believe. So there is that. I don't think that this assignment should ever be taught to any children. It does not do anything other than groom them. Should not be allowed. Anybody who teaches this should be fired immediately. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this assignment, deeply inappropriate. According to NBC San Diego, the high school math teacher at Vista, this is a Vista school district, Vista High School, is the center of controversy because of a diversity, equity, inclusion exercise. I love how NBC puts that. No, this is a grooming exercise. Give me a break. Last week, some Rancho Buena Vista freshmen participating in an elective seminar class. Okay, they say it's an elective seminar class. So I don't know exactly what that means if the students could not participate in it, but you know how it is. You're in a classroom. Okay, class, we're going to participate in an elective seminar class. You're going to feel pressured into doing it. And especially if you weren't prepared onto what that assignment was beforehand, you're probably just going to do it. So stand in a circle. Now, each of you is gay or lesbian, and you're about to begin your coming out process. So they were mocking like these kids coming out as gay or lesbian, and you cannot talk for the rest of the activity. So that was the assignment. It was like getting the kids to come out, even if they're not gay or lesbian, in a circle and come out to each other, which was really, really deeply inappropriate, really weird and bizarre, especially for a math teacher to be doing this. Like, what? And I'm not sure, like I said, I don't know what an elective seminar class is, and why the instructor was so concerned with students who may or may not need assistance in coming out to their parents. So I guess this was an exercise for students who may or may not be struggling with coming out to their parents. It's none of your business. None of your business. You're not my kid's parent. Okay. It's none of your business if they come out to me or not, and you don't need to help them with that. So back in my day, and that wasn't that long ago, folks, this was called grooming. You cannot do this. You cannot force children to talk about their sexuality to other children at the age of consent. Is like, what? I just don't get this at all. This guy, good on the dad for speaking up. He goes, this doesn't do anything other than groom them. And so as the dad said, I think it's unclear how this was implemented in the curriculum, why it was a part of the curriculum. It was confirmed that it was part of the curriculum. The principal there had said it wasn't a part of the curriculum, but it is now confirmed that it is part of the curriculum. They should be taught math in math class. Okay, there is no reason why this should have ever been assigned, whether it was an elective seminar or whatever it was. No reason why this is at all in public school, let alone a math class. So, but it makes sense because in public school, math is racist, and this is the best your district can do. And if you don't think this is happening at your school district, you would be mistaken. Okay, it happened in Hayworth. There was actually a teacher who was let go for stuff like this. So this is pathetic, and it's an understatement to call it pathetic. It's bad. So the school is meant to educate students, not indoctrinate them and get them to admit that they have homosexual preferences. You know, there was no straight, and this isn't even equity. You know, I see here on the video, the guy talking to the school board here, there's like a poster board in the back, and it says respect, trust, and equity is in the back there. Like, okay, where's the straight elective seminar? Okay, where is that? Okay, so it's not equitable, it's not equal. It's also unnecessary. This is math class we're talking about. The kids should be learning how to multiply, divide, geometry, whatever. You know, they've got kids that are around in a circle who aren't even gay, probably, or probably have no sexual preferences because they're children. They shouldn't. No sexual preferences. And they're not gay, and they're forced into a circle to act like they're gay. Like, quite literally, that's what this assignment was. So good on the dad for speaking out and holding the school board's feet to the fire. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. The world is teaching us it's all about me. It's all about me. Yes. Yeah, that's a very, very eye-focused teaching. They say, oh, respect, equity, celebrate your diversity, all of this. This is not a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion activity because it wasn't very inclusive of straight people, obviously. There wasn't a straight elective seminar that the kids could participate in. It was only a gay elective seminar, right? Or whatever it is, where all of the kids get together and then they pretend to come out. How weird, how confusing to somebody at that age, right? Going through puberty. And they're not straight, they're not gay, they haven't really, even thought about that, but their teacher is forcing them to think about sex, which is actually grooming. Back in my day, that's what this was called, and it wasn't that long ago when we would call this kind of stuff grooming, to have kids get around in a circle and be forced to talk about their sexual preferences. Kids, by the way, high schoolers. And to top it all off, it's bizarre that it was talked about in a math class. Like, give me a break. Like, English class, okay. Social studies, okay. Math, they should be learning how to divide, do geometry, educate the kids. Okay, let's not indoctrinate the kids. So I do also like this one. We were talking about the bill. Congress, they're trying to jam through this spending bill, and it includes a raise for Congress members, a 40% raise for Congress members. And I don't know about you, but any kind of raise that you may or may not have gotten this last 4 years has been totally eaten up by inflation. And, these guys are responsible for that. So the people who are responsible for your raise to be eaten up by inflation over the last 4 years, if you had gotten one, they're the people responsible for eating up that raise, they're getting a raise. The Inflation Reduction Act, like I said, only increased inflation. And I give this example all the time with the electric vehicles and how they gave credits to people to go buy electric vehicles. And subsequently, you had the EV industry raise all the prices of their cars and their electric vehicles because they raised the price of their electric vehicles. They raised the price of their cars. There you have it. And we have an omnibus bill when we have to pass it, and we have to pass it in order to see what's in it. Yeah, and then the rest of history. So that's kind of how these people, the Obamas, celebrate Kwanzaa. Really interesting. I didn't know that. We're going to get into that. I'm actually going to do an entire show special on Kwanzaa because there's so much history with this holiday, and it's totally illegitimate. And to put it right next to Christmas is just a total slap in the face to not only Christians, but people who celebrate other holidays like Hanukkah, right? I would never say that about Hanukkah. That it's an illegitimate holiday. I don't celebrate Hanukkah because I'm not Jewish, but there's definitely a faction of people who celebrate Hanukkah more so than Kwanzaa, and it wasn't a made-up holiday. Okay, this is something the Jewish religion practices. Kwanzaa is fake, and it's ridiculous. And oh my gosh, I have to look this up. I'm taking your word for it, but I'm kind of curious. Barack Obama. Not that I don't believe you, but I need to check the celebrate Kwanzaa. Yes, Barack Obama celebrated Kwanzaa with his wife, alleged wife. Kwanzaa. Oh my gosh. Recognized Kwanzaa, acknowledged the holidays. These people are sick. Okay, the Obamas are probably the worst. He's the worst politician, and of course he comes from Illinois, one of the most corrupt states of all time. Wow, they were the ones who originally, the Obamas, recognized Kwanzaa as a time to celebrate African American culture and reflect on its principles such as unity, self-determination, and collective work and responsibility. Okay, yeah, it's celebrating an African American cult that was created by this Ron Everett. Okay. Shocking stuff. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Yes, we are going to get to this story about Scott Jennings. So Scott Jennings got out there, and he's actually A-okay with Donald Trump going after a lot of these media outlets and suing them. So President-elect Donald Trump, I like to call him President Trump, he has some time to kill before he's inaugurated in January. Okay, so he's suing a lot of these media outlets. I'm totally here for it. And ABC, they were willing to settle their defamation lawsuit. George Stephanopoulos, he was lying about how Trump was a rapist, right? And he repeated that lie several times in the network. But Trump, he got $15 million. So ABC settled $15 million. Here's why. They did not want to go through discovery. Okay, if you sue somebody, you'd have to go through discovery, and rather than going through with this lawsuit and argue it in court, you'd have to give over discovery evidence and evidence such as emails, their Slack channels, right, at ABC. And I would love nothing more than to get my hands on that, because we're going to see a lot of Democrat PR firms or Democrat operatives telling them how to report the news, ABC, and they didn't want to do that. That's why they probably settled, okay, for $15 million. It's not because, that's the cost of doing business. No. They settled because the truth could have costed them way more than $15 million. And the truth is that their entire operation is based on emails they receive from Democrat operatives in the Democrat Party suggesting how they report the news and how they cover the news. Okay. And then Trump knows this. That's why he's suing all of them, because they will settle, because they do not want to give them any kind of, or give his team, the Trump lawyers, any kind of evidence. So we're going to get to that here in just a second, but I wanted to point this out. Somebody actually I've been talking about Kwanzaa a lot. Now I'm going to be honest. I went to the postal office, and it really just grinded my gears seeing the Kwanzaa stamp, because I know that it's a fake holiday, it's illegitimate, and if your corporate overlords are telling you that you have to recognize Kwanzaa as a legitimate holiday or be mindful of the way other people celebrate, you laugh in their face and flip them off, okay? Because this is an absolute fake holiday, and it shouldn't be celebrated by anyone. It's like celebrating Hitler's birthday, to be honest with you. Not quite that bad, but kind of. He tortured women, the guy who invented this, and the whole reason why he invented it was to celebrate, quote unquote, African American culture, reflect on its principles such as unity, self-determination, and collective work. AKA, it was created because he wanted to celebrate a cult. Okay, like quite literally a cult that he was a part of, and he tortured these women who I also speculate were a part of this. And guess who? Guess who actually celebrates this? The Obamas. The Obamas. They celebrate Kwanzaa. I'm weak. I'm not shocked by that at all. But when you dig into the history of Kwanzaa, you start to realize, wow, anybody who celebrates Kwanzaa, that's kind of gross. Why in the world would you celebrate somebody who invented the holiday for themselves? By the way, and for me, for a holiday like or celebration, I don't mandate that people celebrate my birthday. Okay, that's a celebration. It's a personal thing, right? The whole world doesn't celebrate my birthday. It's not a holiday. You don't get time off work to celebrate my birthday, right? So it's not considered a holiday. Okay, the guy who invented this holiday, I'm going to just call it a holiday for now, Kwanzaa. The guy who invented Kwanzaa, he invented it for people to celebrate him and African American culture, which is kind of silly because we already have Black History Month where we celebrate the things that people have done, Black Americans, what they have done in history, like good things that they've done. Martin Luther King, right? And we celebrate Black Americans who have done great things. I'm actually not totally against Black History Month. I think that it's very educational, and I think that there's a place for celebrating African American accomplishments. And really, it's kind of silly that we, put their skin color to it. I think that we should just have a history month, and anybody who's accomplished anything, we should celebrate major accomplishments, whether you're Black, white, you're Chinese. I don't really care. Whatever you've accomplished, and if it was beneficial to most of society, then yeah, we should celebrate your accomplishments. I have no problem really with Black History Month, but I do have a problem with Kwanzaa because this guy, he was in prison, false imprisonment of 2 women, tortured them. I could get into the details of torture. I won't do it. Maybe I'll do an entire Christmas special on Kwanzaa and other major holidays that are celebrated around this time. Maybe I'll do that as a special for Christmas. But yeah, totally ridiculous that we celebrate this and that there's a Kwanzaa stamp. I wonder who actually uses the Kwanzaa stamp. The Obamas do, probably, because they actually celebrate it. And I'm not shocked by that. Now, let's get to Scott Jennings. I do have to take a quick break, but on the other side, I'll talk about Scott Jennings and how Donald Trump is suing a lot of these media outlets. And the reason why he's suing a lot of these media outlets is because he knows that they aren't willing to give them give them evidence. Okay, or in discovery, they're required to hand over some evidence, whether that be emails or correspondence between colleagues here. Okay, and Trump knows that they're not going to give that over because it's going to expose their whole entire operation. So we're going to be taking a break, but we're going to talk about Trump's lawsuits. He's got one, I think, against 60 Minutes, CBS, and then he's going to try to get Anna Selzer. I talked about this a lot yesterday for her fake poll in the Des Moines Register newspaper that had him losing in the Iowa. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Evil never sleeps or goes on vacation. Yeah. Remember when Obama was recognized in an article as a student from Kenya? That's ridiculous. No, he's an Illinois politician, and he's probably the most corrupt politician of all time. Anybody who celebrates Kwanzaa, they're disturbed, okay, if they understand and know. And I feel like people who say they celebrate Kwanzaa probably don't know the origins or what they're actually celebrating, but it's kind of sad. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Go ahead, smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Ooh, hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Scott Jennings. He totally understands why Trump is doing a lot of these lawsuits against the media outlets. ABC, they just settled their defamation suit for $15 million. $15 million. He's now going after Anna Silzer. She's the Iowa pollster who had him losing Iowa, which is ridiculous. He's alleging fraud and election interference in both these cases against 60 Minutes and Anna Seltzer. Let's take a listen to Scott Jennings. Here we go.
Where it could go, not just the Donald Trump of it all, but I mean, if he's creating precedent, it's for everybody.
Well, when you introduced Michael, you used the word narratives, and I think one of the reasons Republicans are cheering on this muscular attitude from Trump and pushing back against some of this is because Republicans feel like constantly media organizations, especially in the throes of campaigns, work overtime to create false narratives that may shape the contours of the election. Look what happened. When this poll came out in Iowa, the entire English-speaking world was talking about the gold standard pollster, and Harris has this momentum. And ultimately what we were told was complete garbage. And if you talk to pollsters at the time, they would have told you, this is not real. This methodology is not good anymore. But that's not what people chose to run with because it fit what most people in the press wanted the narrative to be. So he's pushing back on that. I don't, frankly, have a problem with it. And if they capitulate, it's because they don't want to go through the discovery and what that might show.
And they don't want to go through the discovery and what that might show. That's what this is all about, okay? And, the media does work overtime against conservatives and against conservative candidates in their biased reporting. And what we see on TV, it's not what goes on behind closed doors, okay? It's pretty biased what we see on TV. And they're actively working against candidates like Donald Trump and ideologies, conservative ideologies. They actively work against those. And it's not nearly as bad as what I'd imagine the emails say. Okay. Could you imagine what the emails say, what their Slack channels say, what they're saying to each other, these colleagues in the press? I'd imagine there's a lot of emails from Democrat operatives and Democrat PR firms suggesting how they should report on the news or suggesting how they should cover a certain issue. And, all of that, all of their emails, all of their Slack channels, what they say to each other, that would be up for discovery. Every single piece of correspondence would be up for discovery, and they don't want to give that to Donald Trump, the person suing them, because that's going to result in a much larger loss than if they were to just settle. So ABC, they settled for $15 million. It wasn't because, it's the cost of doing business. We just settled because, we wanted to, get this over with. No. They settled because they did not want to hand over their correspondence to the person suing them, because it would have costed them a whole lot more than $15 million. So the media knows how much more damage would be done if the institution if Americans learned the truth about the news organizations and who talks to the news organizations and who tells them how to report on certain issues and what they suggest, these Democrat PR firms and Democrat operatives. If the Americans only knew what were in those emails, we would not be watching them at all, and independent media would be thriving, which it is, but it would have started thriving a way long time ago if this would be uncovered. So Trump loves suing people almost as much as he loves making America great again. So I'm totally all for Trump suing these media outlets, and I hope he continues to do it prior to the inauguration now that he's got some downtime. All right. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. That's going to do it for us here on Conservative Cat. But you guys can contact me, 309-451-9299. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. It's a daily show. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends.